insiders, and casual fans.
Welcome, everybody, to Ball Cap Sports for the bottom of the 10th inning, the Ken Burns Rewatch Recap Series with Erik from Hum Baby Baseball. Erik, how are you today, sir?
Doing good, thank you. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I can't believe that we have done, I guess this would be the 11th installment. It is the final installment in the Ken Burns Rewatch. We have done 1 through 9. The original 1 through 9 innings. We did the top of the 10th, and now this is the bottom of the 10th. You can catch the top of the 10th in all even innings on Erik's channel, Hum Baby Baseball. Go over there, check it out, subscribe, watch those videos, watch them after you watch Ken Burns. And all of the odd innings are over here on Ball Cap Sports. You can check all of those out. Just browse through the channel or just search the channel for Ken Burns, and you'll find all of the odd innings. So this one is a good one. Let's get into the open. Let's get into the recap. So the bottom of the 10th starts right off with an introduction with some of the era's most dominant players: Pedro Martinez, Mariano Rivera, Randy Johnson, Ichiro, Roger Clemens, and it places us in the 2001 season. That year, Barry Bonds' assault on the single-season home run record was full go, as he was hitting a home run in every 7 at-bats. But on September 10th, 2001, Barry Zito was putting the finishing touches on a 1-run, 4-hit, 10-strikeout complete game, a game that would conclude on September 11th on the East Coast. That would be the last baseball game played until Monday, September 17th, as later that morning, close to 3,000 people living out a usual Tuesday morning perished in the attacks on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon, and while fighting back on a hijacked airplane. All sports paused, and nobody really knew when they'd be back. Baseball announced that the Monday following, they'd return, and as quickly as baseball became insignificant following the 9/11 attacks, it became an all-important distraction, especially in New York. Now, one element that this film missed, maybe one of the only major oversights, was the first game back in New York at Shea Stadium. The Mets and the Braves. Mets fighting for a playoff spot. Piazza with the 2-run homer in the bottom of the 8th inning. There was no mention of that in the doc. Again, one of the few oversights. Now, when baseball resumed, everyone seemed to be rooting for Mets and Yankees. So again, nobody was really focused on Barry Bonds and that home run chase to pass McGwire's single-season home run record. Barry that season would hit 73, surpassing McGwire. But it didn't garner the same level of attention and excitement as home run records in the past. There is more time spent on steroids in this inning. You have the Balco investigation taking place. Canseco's book, Juiced, comes out. SI does the story Confessions of an MVP when they talk to Ken Caminetti. And in 2007, the Mitchell Report is released. Players were being implicated left and right. Bonds, McGwire, Ivan Rodriguez, Palmeiro, Gonzalez, Jason Giambi, Troy Gloss, David Justice, Andy Pettitte, Gary Sheffield, Miguel Tejada, Mo Vaughn, Matt Williams, Manny Ramirez, Alex Rodriguez, and more. That list goes on and on. Now, this inning is not all gloom. We have the 2004 Red Sox, who they're coming off the heartbreaking series loss to Aaron Boone and the Yankees the year before. They find themselves behind the 8 ball again, down 3-0, something no team had ever come back from. We all know how it goes from there. Dave Roberts steals second.
For his first pitch, Roberts is going. Posada's throw, Roberts, safe.
Big Papi goes deep.
Ortiz into deep right field. Back is Sheffield. We'll see you later tonight.
Big Papi walks it off again.
Ortiz fights it off center field. Damon running to the plate, and he can keep on running to New York.
Schilling wears a bloody sock.
But like a scene from The Natural, Schilling climbs the mound and prepares to take on this Yankee lineup. A 2-2 now. Sierra. And Game 6 goes to the 8th.
And the Red Sox tee off in Game 7 to take it to the World Series and face the Cardinals. Now, the Red Sox were so locked in that they swept the Cardinals in 4 games, a rather anticlimactic World Series. After that ALCS.
Red Sox fans have longed to hear it. The Boston Red Sox are world champions.
So that is the main elements from this bottom of the 10th. Some steroids, some World Series talk. We had 9/11. Again, we're introduced to some more players of the era. Erik, what were some of the moments that that stood out to you in the bottom of the 10th?
Yeah, that was a good point. That they kind of had that oversight. That game, the Mets, was absolutely just is crazy. It's so emotional and such a big moment with the Piazza home run. But in 2001, of course, I got a little bit of a different viewpoint. In San Francisco, what Barry Bonds was doing was pretty big. He was getting a lot of attention from my point of view, but everybody should have been experiencing what we were in a typical home run race like that, trying to break the all-time record. But unfortunately, because of the clouded, not just because of 9/11 and all that distraction, but also the cloud, of course, with the steroid allegations and the steroid. Obviously, he was using them. So, But from my point of view, it was so exciting what he was doing at that time. Looking back, it's a little different, but at that time it was thrilling. So that comes to mind. And 2004 was just insane. 2003 also, where the Red Sox looked like they had it in the bag, and then Grady Little keeps in Martinez. And even at that time, I was rooting for the Red Sox. I was like, what are you doing? Gives up a couple hits, keeps him in. What are you doing? And they lose. So at that point, you're like, Red Sox are never going to win. But they did the next year. So
they did, yes. Let me get, what were your, 9/11 was an element of this. Let me get your recollections. What are your recollections from 9/11? What were you doing? Where were you? Was sports kind of an integral part to your life at that point? Talk to me a little bit about your recollections from 9/11.
Yeah, I was following the Giants, and I was just early morning. I got woken up and the phone rang.
On the West Coast, it's really early over there. You guys were all sleeping still. It's 5 a.m. when all this.
Yeah, I was sleeping, and I was sleeping, and phone rang, and I think it was my friend's mom calling me. Like, but she said, "Oh, we're getting attacked or something crazy. We're getting attacked. What? Yep. Yeah, they're attacking us. Buildings are getting." I was like, "What?" And I turned on the news. I was like, "What is this? This is crazy." Yeah. So that was I was 21 at that time. That was just insane, and obviously everything stopped. Baseball became not that important. I was like, well, obviously they're not going to play baseball tonight, which they didn't. And they didn't for several days. And I joined the Army shortly after. So, but it was just insane.
Yeah, that was just a wild time. And I was living in New York State at the time. I didn't live anywhere close. I'm in upstate New York, way upstate New York, almost Canada, New York State. It was just a surreal moment. I was about the same age. I was about 20. And you almost, it just took a long time for the gravity of the situation to set in, because it just felt like you were watching a movie for a minute. You're like, this is not real life. And then it starts to set in, and it's just that, then everything that sort of happens, and it was just amazing. In sports, you didn't care. Nobody cared about sports. I mean, I think after a few days, people started to ask the question, well, when are they going to come back now? When is the right time? And I give baseball credit, because I feel like they, in hindsight, took the right steps. They were off for a week. The country had to move on. That was what everyone was saying at the time. Don't let the terrorists win, because if you start to live your life in fear or do things that you wouldn't do otherwise because of it, then you're letting them win. So we got to get back as a country to what we were doing before. So there was that push to get sports back, and baseball came back, and they didn't play the first game in New York, though, wasn't actually until the following Friday. So they came back on the 17th. They didn't play in New York until I think it's the 22nd in Shea Stadium. Yankees would come back a few days later, but that first game in Shea, it's too bad the doc didn't touch on that, but you had, Bush going out there to throw the first pitch. He's got the coat on, and underneath it, he's got the Kevlar vest. Because they were worried. I mean, we were all worried. Anybody that's too young and didn't experience this firsthand, everybody was worried that something else was coming.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that was the fear. So you had Bush go out there, and that was just a big, like, sort of, thump your chest moment that we're not afraid and we are going to continue on. And then for the Mets to win the game in dramatic fashion like that just sort of brought for a minute. And there's been other documentaries and other stories about this, but you can see, NYPD and NYFD, they're there and they're cheering and they're happy for a minute, even though their lives had been so drastically altered, just a week before. So really, baseball was a great distraction there. Primarily, again, I was on the East Coast, so it did feel like everyone was a New Yorker for a minute, and because the season was almost over, for one time, people were kind of rooting for Mets and Yankees. Or like, let's see them get as far as they can go. We want them to win because we want the country to win and all that. So that was pretty crazy. The whole situation. But being on the West Coast, it's interesting. That kind of I sort of had another question for you. Living on the West Coast, the Yankees and Mets were so important at that time, and throughout this entire documentary, it was a lot about the Red Sox and Yankees and their rivalry. Being on the West Coast, does the Red Sox and Yankees rivalry maybe not so much today, but did it then have the same impact? Did you guys care about the Red Sox and Yankees back then because they were spending the most money, they were trading blows, they were meeting in the playoffs? Give me your thoughts on Red Sox and Yankees rivalry from a West Coast perspective.
Yeah. We're definitely into it in the playoffs. I know that a lot of people probably to this day complain about, and the West Coast are always complaining about it. All ESPN shows Yankees, Red Sox, Yankees, Red Sox. That's all they ever show.
Right.
It gets irritating. Sunday night baseball. Oh, look at Yankees, Red Sox. But so it does get a little bit irritating. But when the playoffs come around, if it's Yankees, Red Sox, especially if the Giants are not in the playoffs, then we're definitely glued to the TV, especially after that 2003 and 2004. Those just thrilling ALCS series right there, just absolutely incredible.
So then in 2002, year after. So in 01, just to close the book on 01, Yankees and Diamondbacks face each other in a classic World Series. Yankees kept hitting clutch home runs late in the game to tie the game and come back and all that, but the Diamondbacks ultimately get the win. But in 2002, your guys make it. They are facing we have found to be juiced up Angels team with Troy Glaus leading the way. Barry Bonds finally gets into the World Series. You got the 0-2. I mean, it looked like the Giants were close. We didn't really talk about it much in the open. If you want to elaborate on it a little bit more, but Giants had the chance. It was close. Angels end up coming back. Talk to me a little bit about the 0-2 World Series from your perspective.
Well, yeah, they were up 5-0. Everybody thought it was over. Everyone around me said, "Oh, it's a wrap." And I said, "No, it's not. It's not a wrap." I said, "Calm down. Let's slow down here. It is not over." That's I'm always like that. I'm like, it's not over. Just everyone else, dude, it's a wrap. It's 5-0. I was like, dude, it's not over. And sure enough, I was right. And it's one of those things. Once that game was lost, I think somebody said it in the documentary, and I felt the same way. You felt like that was your chance. Game 7 is just a formality now. We lost our chance. I mean, obviously anything can happen in any game, but it's just kind of like the Buckner era. If people don't know that in '86 that wasn't game 7. They played a game 7 after the Buckner era, and they of course lost. It was over. You were just the balloon got deflated. It was like once we lost that 5-run lead, it felt like it was over. I said, well, we got a game tomorrow, but I wasn't feeling too confident. Unlike 2014, game 6, the Giants got spanked like 11-1, and we were still confident. We were like, we got this, no problem. Mad bum tomorrow, we got this, and we won. But when you have a 5-0 lead and you blow it, you feel it's over.
The momentum just gets sucked out of the stadium. There's no air to breathe, and the team that gave it up just chokes out and has nothing left. I mean, that was that 0-2 World Series. I remember watching that. It felt like Troy Glaus was hitting a home run every other at bat. And then Troy Glaus came to Toronto a few years later and didn't have the same thing.
I was complaining about managerial decisions, but Dusty Baker pulling the starter early there, and we were what are you doing here? What are you doing? But it's all in retrospect. But
it
sucked. It sucked. After they lost, I said, yeah, we're not going to win one. I'm not going to win one. I'm not going to see the Giants win. I'm going to die.
Right.
And they're never going to win.
Yeah. And luckily they'd give you 3. You had to wait. You had to wait about 10 years to get there, but you ended up getting 3 of them over a 6-year period, 5-year period, which was pretty good. Probably going to cement Buster Posey as a Hall of Famer because of that.
Because the next year, they didn't talk about in the documentary. The next year, 2003, the Giants made the playoffs and they lost to the Marlins in heartbreaking fashion also. So
yeah, it was a rough stretch. It was a rough stretch. The later in this inning, it talks about a couple years later. Now this is as the steroid talk is on full display. That's what I mean. It was front page. It was the A block of Sports Center. Yeah, Barry Bonds making the run at Hank Aaron's 755. Do you think baseball went about it? We talk about how they with 9/11 they went about it the right way. Do you think they went about it the right way with how they celebrated Barry Bonds surpassing Hank Aaron? Because there really was no fanfare for it. I mean, Hank Aaron wasn't there. Bud Selig wasn't there. All Bonds got was this Hank Aaron video out in center field, pre-recorded from, could have been a month before. What do you think, MLB, did they mess that up, or were they just like, you know what, we're not touching this thing with a 10-foot pole because of this whole steroid situation? What do you think about that?
Well, they already messed up by not getting in front of that steroid thing. So at that point, they knew this was 2007. So it was already the cat was out of the bag. They knew that that they were going to have problems with this, so they couldn't really do anything about it at that point. With Bonds not having failed a steroid test, they didn't have that kind of proof to, so they couldn't really do anything. But I guess that's all they could do, was just let it happen. And I probably was best not to celebrate it too much. Obviously, again, from my point of view, we were into it. I was a little more iffy on because when he broke, when he hit 73, he was breaking McGuire's record. I was like, one steroid guy breaks another steroid guy, pretty much, as it turned out.
Right.
But,
yeah.
But when you're breaking Hank Aaron's record, I was even myself, I was a little bit, I wasn't too comfortable with it.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's the reason I think there's so much hatred looking back on him is because he was taking steroids and he broke the records. He broke the single season home run record and he broke the all-time record.
I was dreaming that he would retire, and I know this Barry Bonds would never do this, but I was dreaming he would retire and just say, you know what, I'm gonna respect Aaron's record because I'm just gonna call it quits now, and he might get into the Hall of Fame if you'd have done it like that.
Now it's interesting that after that season, he was a free agent. Giants did not offer him a contract. They did not offer him a contract to come back. The year that final year, he'd hit like 25 homers in like 350 at bats because he was getting walked 300 times a season. So like on base percentage through the roof. His home runs per at bat was still legit. I think it was 42 or 43 at the time. So he could have said, hey, we want to bring Barry back because, at least on a 1-year deal, but they didn't do it. They moved on and no one else brought him back either. So what that did is that kept the all-time home run mark at an attainable level that, somebody could someday get. No one's going to break 73. It's not going to happen. They're going to have to start playing more games. The game is just going to have to be different. They're going to have to, bring the fences in. Like it'll be in 100 years and it'll be a different game. But that all-time home run mark, I think what did he get to? 762, 763, something like that. So that's in reach. Somebody could get there because it was only 7 more than Hank Aaron. So somebody who is apparently clean could get there. Albert Pujols, I feel, is running out of steam, but you never know. I mean, if somebody can get up early enough and hit as many home runs and have the longevity and be healthy, they could take down 762 one day. But, I think 73 is safe. I think 763 is safe with Bonds.
Yeah. Someone could get it. And that year there was a big case about whether there was collusion, because, it's funny that nobody signed him, not the Rays. Nobody wanted him. But of course, that could be just the baggage that comes with it. So, but statistically, you would have think some team would have given him a chance.
Right, exactly, and they didn't. So the Bonds thing, that's crazy. There were some, I don't know, just some dark moments, but there were also some really some bright spots in this. We talked about the 04 World Series. Some of the other World Series, they didn't get to spend a lot of time on it because I think when they were finishing up the editing and everything, like they towards the end, they kind of did rapid style, the 06, the 07, the 08 champions. But there were still some good moments. And one, just to sort of put us on a positive note as we kind of get towards the second half of this episode. Tell me about, we're at the point now where a lot of these guys we have seen. So tell me about everybody that's been out now. Who's the greatest pitcher you've seen? And it doesn't necessarily have to be in the doc from this 10th inning, but they introduced us to Maddox last inning, but they spent some more time with him here. Mariano Rivera, Randy Johnson, Roger Clemens, Pedro Martinez. We've had an opportunity now to see one of the best pitchers. What's the greatest pitcher that you've seen?
Probably Randy Johnson. I mean, he looks unhittable. As this most intimidating thing I've ever seen. The way the ball, especially against lefties, I mean, I'm a righty, but I mean, not that, obviously I have no chance, but I can't imagine being a lefty because I'd be scared to death.
Remember John Kruk in the All-Star game?
Oh yeah, I remember that. He's just like this, and he couldn't. He starts stepping out. That was just weird. I was like, is that for show? Because it's an all-star game. I can't imagine he would do that if it was like a playoff game or something. He'd get, but he definitely looked scared.
He had no interest. No interest. Yes. Being a lefty going up against Randy Johnson, that's sort of sidearm release point. That had to be just frightening.
And like
he was amazing.
The doc said, he looks, by the time he lets it go, it's already halfway to the plate. So,
yep.
I don't know if statistically he's the best I've ever seen, because I've obviously seen, Maddox and a lot of these other guys. But as far as just from just watching the guy, the last one I'd want to get in there against was with Randy Johnson.
Right. Yeah. Randy was incredible. Let's get into timeless teams in this decade, the decade of 2000 to 2009. Yankees went to 3 World Series. They got 1 title. The Red Sox went to 2 and they won 2. Cardinals get to 2 and they win 1, and the Phillies get to 2 and they win 1. We don't see as much of 1 or 2 teams winning or going to 5 and winning 4 as we did earlier in this stock, and that gets to just player movement, free agency, the revenue sharing and everything. So our timeless teams now aren't as timeless as back in the 40s and 30s and 50s and all that. But those are our timeless teams for the bottom of the 10th here. So let's get to the do-over next. A few interesting options here. A do-over, again, that is what would Erik go to? What moment would I go to where we could maybe change the history of baseball and have things happen differently? You got the steroids situation. 9/11. I don't know if we want to include 9/11 because that wasn't a baseball. We're keeping this debate. Obviously, everybody would go back and undo that, but we're trying to keep it to just baseball. Moments that are controlled by baseball. The way they handled it was the right way. It's not like they were back out there the next night playing baseball. Another do-over that I kind of thought was funny, tongue in cheek, was Barry Bonds. Maybe he could have gave his son a hug. I thought that was one of the most awkward moments in baseball was Barry Bonds after hitting 756, comes down, steps on the plate, lifts his hands high, and his son is standing there, gives him a hug, and Barry just keeps his hands up. His son releases the hug, and Barry turns away. Like nothing from Barry Bonds.
I never heard anybody actually describe it. And, I see it. I'm like, dang, that looks awkward. But I never heard anyone actually describe it.
Oh, so awkward. What would be your do-over moment from this one?
Oh yeah, I mean, that's a lot of options there, but I kind of wish that, I'm a Giants fan, but I kind of wish that that Hank Aaron still had, because I feel like I hate that 755, these sacred numbers in baseball stats that we talk about. 755 is that's the mark right there. And Bonds, there's no way Bonds gets it without that extra help. So, like I said, I wish he would have either decided not to go down that route and said, you know what, I'm going to play clean. He'd be in the Hall of Fame right now. Or maybe he just retires at 740.
Yeah, I'm with you there. it's kind of an echo of the top of the 10th where we both picked steroids. Get that out of the game. Do that. Bonds didn't need to do that. Maybe McGuire did, but would have been better to go down a road where we didn't have steroids and the numbers still had the same meaning. So it's where we're echoing the top of the 10th, but it's such a prevalent time during this documentary that it makes sense for it to be the do-over here again. Time machine moment. What would you want to go back to and witness again? Would it be a moment from the 04 Red Sox? Would it be that 01 World Series in Yankee Stadium? Would it be Bonds hitting 773 or Bonds hitting 756? What would be your time machine moment?
I think probably the 04 ALCS. Yankees up 3-0. It's pretty much a wrap. And, especially after 2003, no chance. Yeah, the Red Sox are never going to win a World Series. And Dave Roberts with that steal, which, who knew how big that steal was going to become. And just an unbelievable comeback. And those two games at Fenway were amazing. And then they go to New York and just take care of business there. That was absolutely thrilling. I wish I could have been there. Obviously, I didn't get to go in person, but I'd love to see that again.
Yeah, that was fantastic. I think that's probably it for me too. In that decade, that's the moment. That is the moment from that decade because the Bond situation, his home run records just don't stand up. The moment from that decade has to be the 04 Red Sox. Socially speaking, I think we're going to, check out the top of the 10th for that one. Everyone we talked about for the socially speaking part of it kind of gets covered in the top of the 10th. So, anybody that's checking this one out, looking for that bit of content, we kind of refer back to what we did in the top of 10th because it's all the same guys. Erik, I think I cut you off there. Were you about to say something? Sorry, buddy.
What was I going to say? What were we talking about? I don't know what I was going to say.
The Bonds homers, the World Series, the Red Sox.
Oh, I was going to say, I've seen Bonds hit about 100 Bonds home runs. I know how great Bonds was. I had a front row seat, so if I could go back, and I'd rather go see that Red Sox series.
Yeah, if you've seen one Bonds home run, you've seen them all.
Yeah, and he's amazing. The dude is awesome, but yeah, the Giants unfortunately didn't have that type of moment, at least not in Bonds' era.
Right. So, we'll see, how history goes. Do you think Bonds ends up getting in the Hall of Fame one day?
Well, you only got one more year, right? I mean,
he could always get voted in on a historical committee sometime down the road.
Someday.
We know we've already got some guys in there that took steroids. Pudge is in there. Wade Boggs, I indicted him in our last one. We know we've got some steroid guys in there now.
You never know what future generations are going to be. You never know what's going to be. Right now. Yeah. Who knows? It could be in 20 years. It could be a big push for it. It could be the popular thing. It could be good for baseball to put him in.
Right.
That sounds crazy, but you never know because
you never know.
Yeah, it's just with the changing generations and with the changing everything just changes. You know who would have known we would have been all the stuff that's happened this year would happen. So I think there's a good I would say yes, someday he'll get in. I don't know if it'll be in 20 years or 50 years or 100 years, but someday he'll get in.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I could see in 20 years, 30 years, somebody's like, wait, the guy with the most home runs isn't in? No, this has to change. And it'll just be so far removed. But we will see. We will see how that goes. Do you have anything else you want to add from this inning?
No, I was going to say though, there could be. This is just a possibility that there could be some voters that are just waiting for the last year on the ballot to vote for him. Maybe they think he deserves to get in, but they're going to wait for that last possible year. So maybe there'll be a surge this last year. Other than that, it's going to be a while.
Yeah. Good.
But, I think that's about it. I mean, there was a lot. I really enjoyed this 10th inning. This Ken Burns, I think this is my favorite inning of the entire thing. So, obviously part of that is because, we watched it and you get to see all the video
Right,
and the announcers and better footage, and it's just more exciting.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think that being able to have lived it and seen it firsthand, that obviously makes a difference. Everything you're catching in the first 8 innings really is sort of secondhand, and starting at inning 9 and these 10th inning pieces, it's what you witnessed. And baseball in general, it has its ups and downs. It's one thing that this documentary teaches you, is that there are ups and downs. Whenever it's down, it always comes back up. We're seeing it now. The disappointment of the 2020 season, that they couldn't get 60 games, but you get guys like Tatis and Acuna and the Dodgers and how good they were. Like the product on the field, the players on the field always somehow managed to lift it back up. And we've got a lot to be excited for moving forward. I thank you guys, everybody, for checking out the bottom of the 10th inning. Please go back. Make sure you check out some of the other innings. If this is your last stop in the journey and you've caught them all too, thank you for coming along with us. We appreciate that. Go check out Erik's channel. Subscribe there. Subscribe here. Ton of good baseball content coming out, and we look forward to continuing the conversation with you guys. We may do some other deep dives into some historical baseball moments. Keep close to both of the channels. And again, thank you guys for watching. Erik, thank you for joining me on this adventure, on this journey.
No problem at all.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching again, and we'll talk to you